Life and culture surrounding marriage in the United States has changed significantly since the 1960s. So in this part, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what our current climate is regarding cohabitation in the United States. And sadly, I see many people, even in the church, who are just living together. They don't get that there's something significant and valuable and precious about marriage. But let me start by just talking to you a little bit about some statistics that we're aware of and some events that are going on with cohabitation. Since the 1990s, that number has gone up even more significantly. It's very dramatic to think how many people don't value marriage anymore. What we do know is that 60% of all marriages in the United States are now preceded by cohabitation. And the sad part is that's even in the church. There's many people in the church who've lived together before they got married. I meet people who are professing Christians, attending church on a regular basis, and they're living together and they're not married. And then they want to argue with me about how it's good to try things out first. And it's like, statistically, it has shown that marriages that start out that way do not do as well. And I'll talk about that in part 2 of this cohabitation series. 75% of female high school dropouts cohabitate. So if you drop out of high school, you're much more likely to just live with somebody. And 50% of female college graduates. So even if you educate yourself, you're sort of consumed with our culture. 48% of all the children born in America in 2013 were born to unmarried parents. So I want you to just soak that in for a minute as well. Unmarried parents. What kind of stability are those children going to have? What are they going to believe about longevity, commitment, security, those types of things? What I often hear when I talk to people who have had kids together, and I say, well, why don't you just get married? And they'll say, well, I can't afford a wedding. So essentially what they're telling me is they are not married, they are not providing their children with security because they can't afford to throw a party. So, don't throw a party. Just get married and give your family what it needs. If you want to be married and you're planning to be married, the courthouse doesn't cost all that much. Or even just go on a Wednesday and go ask your pastor to marry you. And, they'll usually do it. So, think about that for a minute. That's very difficult to have to embrace that 48% of children are born to unmarried parents. And when I do marriage counseling, I hear quite frequently, if not half the time, that they had a child before they got married. And then they're struggling in the marriage, they don't know why, the kids are struggling, and we're going to talk about that. So if you just sort of slide into a relationship, and I hear that too, well, we just met, it just made sense, it made financial sense, so we sort of slid into living together. I want you to be clearly aware that you did not make a decision, because sliding is not deciding. And you didn't make a conscious decision that it was a good thing or a right thing to do. You just sort of went with the flow. And essentially, whichever one of you thought living together was going to be a really good idea, you said, I don't really trust you enough to be married to you, but hey, I have a good idea, let's live together. And that's really basically what did happen at that time. In the next part on cohabitation, I'm going to go over some of the outcome studies of what this actually does to marriages and families. I'm Dr. Pauline Dillard, and this has been A Marriage Moment.